Well, hello, good people. Mark Holmes here, and as always, I appreciate each and every one of you guys, as well as you ladies. Haven't had an update on the Red Brick House in a while. We actually are having a family get-together. Some family members are coming over this evening, so we're going to be entertaining. So, of course, we've got the honey-do list that's going on to make sure everything is as nice as possible. And so, it's the finishing touches and things that really make a place better. And now that we're heading into the fall, it's getting down in like the 40s and the 50s and at night. And that's the thing I love about the Shenandoah Valley. It may hit 75, 80 degrees during the day, but at nights it's like 50, it's cool. And there's a great natural convection with the Red Brick House. So I want to take advantage of that. And we've bought some of the sliding screens and use those, but they just don't look good, and they're just kind of a pain in the rear end, and you can't find the right size because some of these windows are really, really tall to really take advantage of it. So what I've been doing is, when I went back to my house with my main shop, I ended up using my shaper, following the same principles like I'd make a door, but basically making a frame for a window screen and making them so that way they will fit in just right and seal it up really good. And I'll put the screens in them. I've got to paint them, but they're definitely going to blend in like they were part of the windows. And definitely all you have to do is open up the interior window and not have to worry about a screen, and they can stay around all year round. But something I want to try, because of course we're entertaining and things, and you always have lots of beverages and stuff that you need to keep cold, is we have an antique ice chest. And so I was trying to get a block of ice. I went to Ready Ice because they said they sold 10-pound blocks of ice. Got there, which the place is about 30 miles away, and they're like, no, we don't sell blocks of ice anymore. He's like, nobody buys blocks of ice anymore. I said, yeah, I know, but I'm trying to using an antique ice box and see how cold it'll get. And he's like, well, we ain't got it. I can sell you bags of ice, but can't do that one. So what I did was I did get a couple of 5-pound bags of ice in a 5-gallon bucket. And I ended up putting in about another 25 pounds of water to go with it. So it's almost like a full 5-gallon bucket. So I think it's somewhere around 40 pounds, 35, 40 pound block that's in a bucket. And I'm going to put it in the ice box and see how cold does it get. Because this would have been what you had for a refrigerator. You would have had to get a block of ice every couple of days, and the way they would do it is, because you're like, well, how did they make ice back then? Well, what they did was they harvested the ice from the rivers in the winter, and they had them in basically like a giant cellars to keep it cold until they needed to cut them. So, yeah. So that's where you had the milk delivery, and the ice man would come by to bring you milk, and you'd have the ice guy to bring you ice. We take for granted so many of the things that we have right now that it's not even funny. So the bucket, I'm gonna have to hose the outside of the bucket a little bit to make it thaw enough that it'll come out, and then I'm gonna use the old antique ice tongs to carry it with. Hopefully they'll be big enough to open the thing up. This is gonna be fun. So here's my 5-gallon bucket of ice that we froze in a freezer. Now granted, we wouldn't have that situation here. Look at that. We wouldn't have that situation. We would have had to get the ice man. But there we go. Ooh, that works pretty good. Okay, let's take our ice in. Wow. Uh-oh, I closed the door. Fortunately, it's got a fingerprint opener. So you just put your fingerprint on it, and if you're the right one, it works. Okay, let's... Okay, all right. Let's see what happens. I'm curious because I've actually gone online and trying to find out how cold does an ice box get, and I couldn't seem to find it anywhere, nowhere. So I want to see how much it goes down and how long it takes it to go down, and also how long my, I guess, 30-40 pound block of ice will last. So we'll come back and check on it in an hour. Okay, so we're going to check in on our ice box. Okay, so I do have a little problem. I've got one of my locks, the handle is actually broken on it, so I'm going to have to see if I can find one. So we started out with 68 degrees, 68 or 70 degrees. We're actually at 52. Now, let's open this up over here. You can see our big block of ice that's there, that's melting, and this is nice and cool in that section. And then underneath of it, we have a bucket that's catching the water. Now, I have put some beverages in here, which will also suck up some of that. Some of them were a little bit cold to start with, and I do have a bag of ice, so I'm going to put some ice in for people to have something in there to go ahead and grab a hold of. Let's see. It's kind of cold. And I'm thinking that it'll probably, the insulation of what they did in these, like they would have put like sawdust in there or paper and things like that. They didn't have like insulation like we have nowadays. So more than likely, what they end up having is not great insulation for these. But I'm thinking that if you end up having a multitude of things in here and they get cold, that it'll help to keep it all more cold. Does that make any sense? Yeah, I think it does. So 54, so we got 52, 18 degree split. Yeah, they wouldn't have gotten as cold as what we would have been used to, unless it was the winter time. Well, so here we are. It is the next day, and we're going to check on our, well, we still actually have a good chunk of the block of ice left. Okay, you can see where, I guess it wasn't completely frozen inside of it, because you can see where the ice is. It's kind of like a big glass, an ice glass. But our temperature stayed at 55 this morning, and so, well, not extremely cold, but it's cool. So if you had an ice box back in the day, it didn't get real cold like you're thinking about here. Now, maybe they would have gotten a block of ice and they would have chopped up some of that so that way they could put some ice in a drink, which probably, if you ended up probably taking the lower door down there, putting another block of ice probably would help. The problem, of course, with this early technology, of course, is they didn't have a lot of insulation, and I think if they were to have a circulating fan back through there, would have probably helped to really get it going. But the way it would work would be is there's actually an opening at the top between here and an opening at the bottom. So your ice being here on this plate, it drains onto this pan that's around here, which would also put cold water on there and then drain out through the bottom of it. Of course, you got to dump the pan that would be underneath of it, but the cold air drops and then the warm air would recirculate, so it has a natural convection. Now, I will say, when I open up the door, you can feel cool air come out of it. It just doesn't get that cold. Now, it also may be too, and maybe I should put the because I have the probe up here high, try it down low and see what the temperature is. In fact, I think I will do that just to give us a little taste to see, is there a big difference?